Welcome, everybody, to our Wealth Edit podcast. Today we have Rischal, who is coming from Chicago. She is a PR extraordinaire. We were introduced to Rachel through Kelsey Ogletree, who we recently had on a podcast, who also is a dynamo in that PR world. And Lauren and I, being in our 40s, have had a lot to learn about this industry because it's always changing and always evolving. But really, we continually meet women who are helping us out. And so I was lucky enough to have a pre-call with Rachel, and I learned so much. So I'm very excited to share her wisdom and knowledge with all of our listeners. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved our Get to Know You call and am very excited to be here with you today and chat in more detail.
Well, great. Well, so we always start the podcast up just, if you'll just share a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today, we would love to hear all the details.
Well, you're catching me at a funny moment because I just realized that this summer is my 20-year anniversary in PR, which feels impossible because I can't be that old. I just really cannot wrap my head around the fact that I've been in this profession for 2 decades. But the most condensed version is that I started in PR right out of college. I worked for a big global firm and then transitioned to a big global ad agency where I just navigated different parts of the communications realm. I worked for a startup PR firm that became a big firm and also went in-house for a restaurant group, which was a lot of fun. But it's a different world being in hospitality. And then 6 years ago, actually 6 years ago this month, I started my own shop, which is called 3PR. And I discovered I love being an entrepreneur. It is really fulfilling to run my own business. I only had 2 guiding principles when I started my company. One, work on things that I'm genuinely interested in so that when I'm pitching my clients, it comes from a place of being real and authentic and being able to say, like, I use this product, I eat this food, I serve this to my kids. And also secondarily, and just as importantly, no assholes. I feel like throughout our careers, we all encounter difficult personalities. It's inevitable. But as much as possible in running my own business, I wanted to surround myself with really genuinely great people that I would feel good about dedicating my time and resources to. So I would say of all the chapters, they've all served me in some way, but running my own business has absolutely been the most fulfilling. And actually, since it's the Wealth Edit, I feel like I should say working for myself has also been the most lucrative. And I'm excited to dive into that because I learned some things the hard way, but I was also really lucky to have women who stepped in and gave me some guideposts and some critical advice and some transparency into their own financial situations. And that has made all the difference. So I want to pay that forward as much as possible.
Well, let's start there. I mean, that sounds like a great place to start. So tell us how, because I think, it's interesting. I feel like in the last couple of months, especially, it's just emerged people saying, I want to start my own thing, but I'm scared of the financial repercussions, and sort of even like how you thought through the short and long term of that to make that leap.
This is a good question to sift through. So it wasn't as though, in full transparency, I intended to start my own business. I left this restaurant group and I felt a little bit unsure of what my next move should be. And so as a temporary Band-Aid, I decided I would freelance. And that freelancing snowballed into starting my own business. So actually, one tip I go back to for people who are on the fence about what to do is I say, you don't have to concretely decide, I'm launching a business, I'm going to invest in a website, I'm going to put up a social media account, I'm going to print business cards, I'm going to make a big statement. It's daunting and it's a lot of pressure. And for me, I went into stealth mode for a year. I just really tried to test the waters and see, am I good at this? Is the money there? Is the business there? Do my clients like me? Do I feel like I have a case to be made for being an actual agency, even if it's an agency of one? And I think that day before you get married approach is incredibly helpful. So instead of feeling like, oh my God, I have to really go out there, put my stake in the ground, announce the name of my company, have a point of view, have a business plan, and just really live in the public eye as I figure this out, I think there's a lot of value to just doing things kind of quietly and doing your work under the radar so that you ensure that you like it and it's viable before you feel as though you have eyes on you or that additional layer of pressure. Who needs that? Also, when I got started, I did a ton of coffee meetings. I think I had 2 weeks where I tried to do 4 to 6 coffees a day. not because I knew exactly what I wanted to come out of it, but because I was positive that by practicing my spiel, connecting with good people, having conversations, just sort of that interplay of energy and being out there would invariably spark something. I think it's just important to be out there and let people know that you're available, you're interested, and that the street goes two ways, that I would love to help them if I could, not just be a taker. And so I got a lot done in those 2 weeks because people would end the meetings often saying, oh, you know who else you should talk to? Or I started to learn that I should ask, oh, is there anybody else you think I should talk to? But I got 2 intros to women I did not know. And both of them were incredibly helpful because they said, here's how much money I make. And I even look back on that now and I'm really dumbstruck. I mean, pretty much strangers. One was my college roommate's nanny share, who was running her own PR business. And one was my former coworker's friend who was running her own PR business. And they both said to me, I think it's pivotal to know what's possible, what you can expect. It's a hard decision. I get that. And they told me, this woman said to me, who did more corporate PR, she said, I do 2 clients at a time. I charge them each $10,000 a month. And I was floored because I just thought, wow, if somebody would pay me $2,000 a month per client, I think I'd be killing it. That was my initial mindset, to know that $10,000 a month is a retainer that could be paid. And this woman does 2 at a time. Well, that's pretty affirming. And then this other woman who did more consumer PR, she's like, the money is better, I promise you. And she really got in the weeds and she went a step further and said, do you need invoice templates? Do you need scope of work templates? Like, do you just want some like paper where you could build off of? Every year I send her a thank you note. Like, she was so helpful and didn't need to be at all. And I feel like she's been a cheerleader of mine and I am forever indebted to her and have tried constantly to send her business or do things to show up for her because it made all the difference. And then the last thing I would say, because I know this is going long, is I ended up getting introduced to a really exceptional business coach, a woman named Laura Sanchez Greenberg. And we sat down and I was swirling. I didn't really know how to map out what I wanted to do. And she said, how much do you want to make? And I said, I don't know how much money I want to make. She goes, just tell me a dream number. What is the number that you would be so thrilled if you made it? And so I named a number that I thought was pretty substantive. I named a number that was double the salary I had left behind. And she goes, oh, Rachel, you're going to sail past that. And I said, I appreciate that, but like, no, I mean, there's no way. And when I did, and I actually tripled my income working for myself, I let her know that she gave me the permission slip that I could not give to myself. I did not have that faith at that moment. I could not forecast that possibility, but she gave me a real gift because she was saying, I see this for you. This is not unreasonable. And what I was jotting down before this conversation is that financial transparency is the key to financial success. And they often say, like, you can't be what you can't see, but you can't earn what you haven't learned. If you don't know what numbers are reasonable, how can you possibly aspire to reach those? Somebody had to tell me, you can make this amount of money. You can charge this retainer. This is reasonable and achievable. And then I went out and did it. And now I am very dead set on sharing that information with other people. And I'm in a little PR squad where we are very, very open with each other. And I've nudged successfully all of them to raise their rates. And they said their husbands are so grateful because they all had their best years. And they said, well, it's because Rachel told you to charge more. You ignored me for years, but when Rachel said raise your retainer, you did. But good work should be rewarded. And I don't think women should have to be uncomfortable or feel a sense of shame about asking for compensation that matches and aligns with their effort.
There's so much to unpack there, and it's so in line with, who we are at the Wealth Edit and what our goals are at the Wealth Edit is, we say all the time, sometimes the best way to learn how to be good with money is to just start talking about it, to start having open conversations with friends, other people in the industry. I had someone call me last week that I grew up with, and she had heard that I had changed careers to be a financial advisor, and she wanted to know more about it. And I just said, well, this is how much I make. And she was like, I can't believe you just said that. I mean, and she wants to be a financial advisor. I don't know. I said, well, we're going to have to start having these real conversations. But, I just realized that sometimes it can be jarring the first time, but almost always the minute we bring that into conversation, people begin to relax, and just like that is where the magic happens. Now, one of the things that brings me to is, you know, us learning how to negotiate for ourselves as women can be uncomfortable, as you said. And so you shared with us with me on the pre-call something that your dad said, and I have thought about it so many times since we first connected, and I would love for you to share with our listeners the wise advice your dad gave you.
Well, I love that this quote was sticky for you. I'm going to credit my dad, Bob Gilman, who is my hero and has been the strongest advocate for my entire professional path. But he has this saying in our family, which originated with his grandpa: you can open your mouth or you can open your wallet. You decide. And what it boils down to is be unabashed about asking for what you want. So you can negotiate, you can set different terms. And this idea is, if you settle for what's given to you, you're essentially opening your wallet. Like, that's it. But if you open your mouth and you advocate for yourself and you ask the question and you see what's possible, there's so much that could unfurl from there. So my dad does think everything's negotiable, and it's become a little bit of like a family joke, but I use that all the time, because if you're uncomfortable asking for things, you're not going to potentially unlock all of this possibility. I do not enjoy negotiating, and I don't enjoy setting my rates, but it's a discomfort that I've learned to live with, and I'm able to move through it. So if I can give you an example. So my dad's quote came into play in a big way. I took on a new client a couple years ago, and I thought it would be my biggest client to date. I was really excited about it. Big company, big opportunity. And I knew they were leaving behind a PR firm that they had been pretty disenchanted with. They didn't feel great about the PR firm they had before, but it was like a whole agency on the coast. And I'm a one-person shop in Chicago. So when it came time to set my rate, I asked my future client, I said, if you don't mind me inquiring, what did you pay your last agency? And she told me, and I said, okay. And then I charged the exact same amount. And I was ready for what happened next. She said, oh, I thought you'd be a little less expensive because you're just one person. And I said, I understand that thinking, but you let go of this firm because of what they didn't deliver. You had a lot of junior people who didn't have a ton of experience, who were learning on your dime and not delivering results. I've been doing this at that point for nearly 2 decades. So I'm bringing my full scope of PR experience to your brand. Nobody else is doing it. I will be doing it. And you're buying my time. I'm going to turn down other business so I have more time to support yours. And they took a flyer on me. I got my biggest retainer. We worked together for 2+ years beautifully. I got them Oprah's favorite things. We are still on great terms today. And thankfully, it really worked out. But because that happened, it set a new bar for what I could charge moving forward and gave me confidence that my services warranted that retainer. So going back to my dad's words, I opened my mouth and it was really worthwhile.
Yeah. And so this is switching gears a little bit now to like the business of the business, because like PR, we've had several PR people on, and I the reason is because if you're a female business, like your dream is to be on Oprah's favorite thing. Your dream is to be fill in the blank. Like for us, our dream is always to be in the publications where women naturally are. So like this year we've been in Southern Living and Veranda, and it's like, that was our goal, you know?
Yes.
And so how do you, thank you, we're very excited, but how do you, what are some reasonable expectations? How do you know, this is going to be a couple questions all at once, but like, what are reasonable expectations as you're bringing on a new client? What work should businesses do before they hire a PR firm? Because I think that is where sort of some of the misses happen. And then maybe we just start there. I have 100, but they're all kind of like that. Like, how do we begin this journey and what's reasonable?
Well, I can already tell you'd be an amazing client because you said two things. I want to be in the publications that reach the people that would use our business. So you're already thinking of where you should appear. And then you're saying, what work should I do to be a good PR partner in advance? Like,
Right.
you're already golden. So of course, it's so sexy to be in Oprah's favorite things. And I should also say it took 15 months to get there. So if I had an impatient client or a client that didn't understand the journey, it would have never materialized. So you have to know that really good, juicy, big PR takes time. It is patience, it's persistence, and it's definitely like a little sprinkle of magic and luck. So in that instance, Gayle King fell in love with the product, and I was able to build upon having pitched Gayle King to get to Oprah, and it was fabulous. But any client should think about who's buying my product, who's interested in my product, where do I need to appear? I mean, sometimes good housekeeping is the best place for you, and sometimes you need to be in TechCrunch. And you should be really vigilant about figuring out, depending on the story angle and what's happening, where you need to be. I don't really agree that all PR is good PR. Good PR is in the places where you want to appear with the messages that serve your business. And then I love your second point, because the best clients are the ones that understand PR is collaborative. One of my selling points, if you will, is like, if you hire me, I'm basically joining your team. So I hope you like me. I hope we get along well, because we're going to work really, really collaboratively. And I'm on my client's Slack. Sometimes I have an email as if I work there. We text. It is not this sort of like hands-off vendor relationship. We have a bi-weekly call and maybe an email here and there. Like, it's a daily thing. I had a client, I work with Siete Foods. They're amazing. They sent me cookies and flowers for my birthday yesterday. Like, what a kind client to go above and beyond and say, like, I see you as somebody who's like a friend of our brand and you're part of our team. So don't bring on PR if you don't have the energy and the interest in really doing it. And that means brainstorms, turning things around quickly, getting people ready for interviews, taking big shots when they appear, going to events. PR is not something that you truly can outsource if you want it to be done well. And then your PR person is going to feel like a pain in the ass bothering you all the time, being like, oh, I'm sorry, actually, I did need those photos. Or could this person do this interview? Or should we get that media training on the books? So a partnership is the best way to do it. So I always advise, hire a PR firm or hire a PR person that you really like, that you would sit next to on the plane, that you would grab a drink with, that you would almost choose to be in your personal life, because that's where the relationship should go. You should be that intertwined and comfortable with each other.
Good word.
Well, I'm sure we have a lot to say about that, because Lauren and I have done this, and, you know, again, kind of coming in and realizing that this is definitely a collaborative effort, and is one that requires work on our part, and we need to make sure that whoever it is that we're working with understands our goals and the mission behind what we're doing, because we've run into that, Lauren, haven't we, where it feels like, you know, we were two ships passing in the night, and all of a sudden we're like, okay, I'm not sure this is the right fit. And so, you know, in that case, I think Lauren and I both decided, well, this is something that we'll, you know, bring back in-house and we'll work on it. But having done that, now I think we would most definitely be better partners with a PR person, just because we've had to learn the hard way that how important that is. So we're just always in awe of all of y'all who know how to build the brand, understand what you're looking for, and then like taking it to that next level. But I just thank you for sharing that. And another thing that I have loved about you and about Kelsey, and it seems like many of the other women in this, you know, that are out there in the entrepreneurial world about talking about PRs, everyone's been so helpful and has been willing to share ideas. And I know you mentioned that you have like a PR group that you meet with regularly. Are y'all like meeting once a month, you know, a quarter? How does that work?
I'm glad you brought this up, because it can be a little bit isolating and lonely if you're working for yourself and you're working from home and you don't feel like you have a community. And I loved the social aspect of offices when I was younger, and I really liked feeling like I had colleagues. And so in running my own business pre-pandemic, I was like, oh, I'm out and about enough, it's okay. And then when the pandemic hit, it was so hard to slog through. And I call her my work wife. Her name is Amy. we'd worked together for years. We started our own business at the same time. And she said, I have an idea. What if I pulled together a Slack group of a couple other people like us, and we could just trade ideas back and forth? And she added Nikki and Morgan, who were new to both of us, but good sports. And out of that formed this incredible friendship, but also this professional support group. So we Slack daily. We get together in person. Before Nikki had a baby, we were Zooming once a week. And the structure was what's going well in my world, what is not going well in my world, and how can the rest of the team help? So it's almost like having 3 unpaid members of your team who are like, let's brainstorm. Have you emailed this person? Have you looked at it through this lens? I don't feel like this client's going so well for you. I got a new business lead. Are you interested? I mean, we really show up for each other. And we had what we called a CEO day last summer. And we sat down at Amy's dining room table and we went into our books. We named each client we were working on and the amount that client paid us. And then we evaluated, are we making the amount of money we want to make? How could we shift things around? What feels like it's up in the air? What are our goals for the future year? And I feel like money in so many ways is still so taboo, and I don't want it to be, or I don't like it to be. I loved knowing this information about my friends and thinking, you know what? I think you could do this next year and you could actually increase your revenue. Or this feels like a client that's really wonderful because you like their story and they've been good to you, but really they're below market rate. And then they looked at me and offered me really valuable advice. So when we get rid of, I think, this discomfort around sharing numbers, we're able to actually add real value and be incredibly beneficial to each other. So my advice for people who are starting their own thing, or if they're an independent practitioner, is to find a support group of people you can bounce ideas off of. You can be mutually generous. You can show up for each other. And then also maybe you can take that next step and really talk about the nitty-gritty of your business and what you're charging, what feels fair, what isn't. I think it's invaluable.
Well, and clarity is kindness. We found that we did a big, at our private practice, which is called Somerset Advisory, we did just a big pricing study about 2.5 years ago. And really we've had to modify it once on the planning side since then, just because we realized that we were below market and below the amount of time and resources we were putting into each case. And it's difficult to do, but once you do it, it's so much clarity, because then the right people are going to find you, and it's very easy to discern, who you're providing value for and who you aren't. I mean, there have been more than a handful of occasions where I'm like, we're not providing our fee. Like, we need to just find you the right person that is going to help you in this next stage. It's just that the conversations can be incredibly kind, and I think it's the right thing to do to know exactly how much you should charge. Of course, sometimes there's an anomaly, but those people tend to fall away eventually anyway, so just keeping that abundance mindset that there really are enough clients out there that want your value and your services, and feeling super confident in what you're providing. So I think that's great encouragement for today. We always like to wrap up just by saying why did you say yes to the Wealth Edit? I have about 100 more questions, so if you will, we'd love to have you back on again. But why did you say yes to the Wealth Edit?
So the power of networking and women you admire. Kelsey Ogletree, as you brought her up a couple times, was on, and I think Kelsey's fantastic, and she's a media friend that I made over the past couple of years. And she had heard me on another podcast and been kind enough to say, Rachel, I really enjoyed the interview. And I said, oh, Kelsey, thank you. I love doing podcast interviews. Clearly, I'm a talker and it's fun to have a conversation. And she said, oh, you have to talk to the Wealth Edit. They're amazing. You're going to love them. And then she was generous enough to connect us. So like all things, it's good people making introductions and trying to put pieces together.
Yes. We always say every meeting is a good meeting. And I truly believe that to be the case. You never know who someone like Kelsey, who's so amazing, will introduce us to. Amazing you. So anyway,
I love that every meeting is a good meeting. You're right. You do not know which meetings are going to have outsized positive repercussions for your life.
That's right.
And I love it. I just was talking to a client yesterday who is just really earnestly seeking what's next for her in her life. And, I said, just go out there and do something, just go have coffee with somebody and just say, I want I want to go back to work. I mean, just practice saying that. It's like, you'll be so surprised by the number of people that when you start saying it, when you start telling people what you want to do, then, that's the first step. And sometimes the hardest one to take, but just taking it and then trusting in the process, because I can say from personal experience, has been so much a part of my story. So thank you for sharing. And I'm so excited for people to have heard the wisdom that you had to impart today. And we look forward to hopefully having you back on again.
Oh, thank you. This was so much fun. I'm really, really glad we connected.
Okay. Thank you, Rachel.
All right. Bye.
Have a great
Take
day.
care.
Bye.